everybody, and welcome back to Cheap Air's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. And it turned out to be a fairly decent day. A little chilly outside, but I've been working in the shop here all day and didn't even have to turn the heat on, so it wasn't that bad. But what was I doing? Well, this is my backup. I just installed it. I pulled it out back in 2021 because it was cycling on and off, and I thought the bladder was blown on it. But when I checked it out, everything was okay, and I pumped it back up with 23 psi, and it was just fine. So I've rechecked it again before I installed it, and it still holds 25 psi, so I'm okay. I know I said 23 and then I said 25. That's because originally they recommended 23, and then they said, what's 2 pounds? And they said, go to 25. So I did go to 25, and that's what I have it set at. So I just marked it down there in on 1925. So I know when I changed it. Now I had this hard piped in and all soldered, and it was a pain in the neck to take this pump in and out. So I modified it, and I put it together with the shark bite fittings and 1-inch pipe, 1-inch shark bite pipe. This one doesn't matter because once I disconnect the pump, I pull it out, and then I can unscrew this one with the pump over there at the workbench. And my hands are all dirty. But it comes apart right there with a shark bite fitting. And yes, shark bite fits copper, and it fits shark bite or PEX pipe. So it's really, you pay a little bit more for the fittings, and people say, oh my God, they wanted $18, $19 for one fitting. Well, think about it. No soldering, no paste, no propane, no acetylene, no gas or anything to heat up the piping. No lead in your water. Oh, what the heck? It's and the time. Well, if I had to solder all the pieces for all of that to put it all back together again and do it in copper, well, an hour, hour and a half, 5 minutes. That's how long it took me to snap that back together with shark bite. So when you're talking about saving time and you're saving on other materials, and the price of copper nowadays is ridiculous. That's why the brass fittings are so expensive. But remember, brass is harder than copper, so it'll last longer too. If you're going to bury it, you have to get yourself some ABS tape and wrap them well in ABS tape if they're going underground, because the acid in the soil will eat up the brass, just like it will any other metal you lay out in the desert. So anyway, I got this one installed. It pumped right up. It's holding its pressure. So it's all ready to go. So I won't have to, because the one that I had in here started cycling again, just like this one did years ago. And I said, oh, well, maybe the bladder froze on one of those really deep freeze nights or something, and it's got a crack in it. So let's move over here. Here it is. Now, there was a leak that was leaking right onto here. I find it was just the shark bite fitting going into the plastic fitting. It wasn't seated well, so I made sure I reseated it better this time so that I don't have to worry about a leak. Anyway, this thing weighed a ton getting it out and bringing it over here. And it was completely full of water inside the bladder and outside the bladder. Now, the bladder is supposed to be where the water goes. This is the bladder right here. Okay? This is the air fitting that goes on the back side of the tank around there. And that's where you put your 25 psi of air in. So the air goes between the tank and the bladder, and it squeezes on the bladder to make the water go out better. It gives you pressure on your water, okay? So the bladder actually fills with water. Now, this bladder doesn't appear to have any holes in it. Nothing I can see. So what I have to do before I put this back together again is I'm going to rig up something that I can use to hold this in place, and then I'm going to fill it with water and see if any water leaks out of it anywhere, if it's got a little pinhole or whatever. Now, the only other way water could have gotten in there was where this seal sits on this face. If it was loose, the water could go out and go around the seal and go back into where the air is inside. So I don't know. I will check it out, and I'll let you guys know in the future what the heck turned out to be. Now you're thinking, okay, if this goes all the way out the backside, how do you get that out in the backside when you're putting the tank back together? Well, it's pretty simple. You crush the whole bladder, you put it inside the tank first, and push it down onto the bottom of the tank. Then you reach in and take this, and you put it through the back hole, and you put the washer and retaining nut on it to hold it in place. And then you got to give it a slight torque, because this rubber seal keeps the air from leaking out of the tank. Okay, the seal around this thing. So it looks to me like they actually set this up so that if it did leak, you could actually pull this unit out and move it over to here and get a new seal. So I may do that. Oh, I'm sorry, I had you out of screen. Yeah, so you can take that out of there and move it to this position and put it back in again and get a new seal. Because that's probably what happened, is the air leaked out of the tank and water got between. Well, no, I guess that wouldn't do it, because that would only let the air out. So the air wouldn't be pushing on the bladder. There's a spot there, but that's just a manufacturer's mark. And it shows the date that it was made. So, anyway, I will check that out and I'll let you know what I find. But the point on this whole thing is, you remember I said, when you're living off grid, if you have only one, you have none. That's a saying that you want to learn and keep in your head. When you're off grid, if you have only one, you have none. Now, I have 2 of these tanks, and I watched when they went on sale, and I bought a second one for a backup. So the reason for that is just like this. It goes out. I'm not going to be without water for any longer than it takes me to replace the pump with my backup. And then I have time to repair my one that was bad, and I've got a new backup. Now, another thing I may do, I mentioned this before to somebody, and I've had a few people ask questions about the Harbor Freight pump. If you can do that. Yes, you can. You can eliminate this tank altogether, and you can put in a larger tank. This is a 5-gallon. You can put in, like, say, a 20-gallon or a 50-gallon tank. And it just needs a 1-inch pipe fitting on it to connect this pipe to. That's all you have to do. Okay. Oops, I dropped my washer. Only a washer, no dryer. I use a clothesline. Anyway, yeah, you can just connect this line directly to your new tank and just leave this one like it is, open, or put a cover on there so critters and dirt and stuff don't go inside. But you can eliminate that tank altogether and go with a larger tank, and then your pump will cycle even less. All right? The amount of water that's in here is how much water you can get before the pump has to turn on and replenish the pressure in the tank. So the bigger the pressure tank, the storage tank, the more water you store, so the less often your pump has to run. Now, instead of this thing kicking on and off 5 times while I'm taking a shower, with a larger tank, it'll only kick on once. That's just to replenish the pressure. So keep that in mind. If you have a problem, don't throw your pump out. The pump is good. The pressure item on it is good, or the pressure gauge on it is good. The pressure valve on it is good, or the pressure sensor on it is good. Everything's good. The only thing is the bladder leaking. Well, if you can't find a bladder the right size to replace it with, then don't worry about it. Just get yourself another tank, a larger tank, so that it runs less often and you get less wear and tear on the bladder and the tank. And also, get a stainless steel tank. The Chinese call this stainless steel. They paint it. That's their stainless steel. If you look inside of there, that is not stainless steel. All right? It's painted. And if you've ever bought stainless steel kitchen utensils, you'll notice that they rust. And they're not the best in the world. Well, and I know my stainless steel because the invention that I have patented and I was selling before I retired, the Rapid Rod mixer, is made out of 304 stainless, and that's food grade stainless. So there are different grades of stainless, but they tried to sell me cheap Chinese stainless, and I said, no way, I want good US 304 stainless, and that's what I made my product out of. Well, that's another life. Anyway, we've got to get to our, what is it, Wednesday. I got to tell you guys what the item was. As of this morning, up to the last time I was online, nobody got the correct answer. I guess I chose a really tough one this time. But I will make the revelation now. I'll show you what that item was. All right, let me turn on a light. And I'm going to move over here and get my tripod. I don't have to try anymore. I know how to do it. All right, so let me get this in without hitting any buttons. If I do, I'll just add in onto the unit. All right, so you can see the blue tape's still on the handle right over there, right? All right. So this is the item, and here we go. We're going to pull off the tissue paper that's hiding what it is, and there it is. It is the slide shooter for nailing inaccessible areas. All right. Nails in tight places where you can't swing a hammer. And you say, what's that all about? Okay. Before I go into that, let me show you. I told you I added that washer on there. And why did I add that on? Well, you hold this pipe with one hand, and then this is a weighted handle. You slide it down. And a couple of times when I'd been using it, my finger got just past the end of it. And when I went down, it pinched my finger between the weight and the bar. So I added the washer on there to modify it and make it a guard so that you don't have to worry about it hitting your hand. Kind of like a sword. All right. So how does this work? Well, you can take a nail of any size. This is a 16 penny. This is a framing nail. You slide it inside the tube, like that. Oh, I didn't show you. Let me see. Okay. You slide it inside the tube, like that. Pull back on your plunger until the nail is inside, and then bring it up to where just the tip is coming out. All right? So that's where you want to hold it when you're getting ready to start. Now, let's go up here. Let's see if I can get up there. Oh, that won't work. Let's try right over here. All right. So we got the 2x4 straight above us, and that's an out of reach place, right? So I can actually take this and get up into here, and then I slam the hammer just like that, and I can nail that nail all the way in. I'm not going to do that because I don't want that nail in there, but I will pull that nail back out. But that is the demonstration of how that tool works. That has gotten me out of many a bind in some of the jobs I had, where I just had to get a nail in to hold something, and there was just no room to swing a hammer. But with this thing, no problem. One time, crawling under a house in the crawl space, I had to nail a joist board that had fallen apart, broken in half, and I was going to nail on a scab on it. So I put my jack under it and jacked it up, and then I used this tool to put a plywood plate on the outside of it, and then when it crawled around the other side, and put a plywood plate on the other side of it. So I had plywood plates on both sides nailed into place. And that repaired the broken floor joist. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right. So the only other thing I got to do is I got one tool that I'm missing, and I know I had it here, and I usually always keep it like right here, but I didn't put it back when I was done with it. So somewhere in this shop, on the workbench or somewhere, is that tool, and I'm going to have to find it because I need it. And that might be the next, what is it, Wednesday item. So the thing that you guys want to know also is, don't worry that nobody got this one. There's still going to be 4 names added to the spin wheel for today, because those are the 4 paid members. And paid members, like I said, get those extra perks. They don't have to guess. They get the automatic entry. So I got 4 people that are going to go on that wheel automatically just because they are members. So if you want to join, look in the description, and there's a link there that says a link to join my channel and make a pledge. And there's 5 different levels. You can take any level you want, and that still qualifies you for these extra perks. All right, so get with it. And there's also going to be, this year are going to be special members-only videos that other people won't get to see. Only the members will. So please join if you can. I'd appreciate it. It helps me out, and it makes more things possible. And the more things possible, the more I pass on to my members. All right, everybody. That's all I have. I'm going to get back to work here and put a light inside that bladder and see if I see any pinholes in it. Or maybe I'll just put it back together again and see if it holds air. If it doesn't hold air, that means it's leaking through the bladder, right? All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This is G Bear signing off. All right, your joke of the day is, why is it that people in Greece don't ever wake up at dawn? That's because dawn is tough on Greece. Oh. See you later.